Hello everybody, Tom here. Please excuse the audio quality for this episode. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen events, we were unable to record in the same room. But be rest assured, we should be back on track by next episode. Thank you, and please enjoy this episode. This is Fritz Frivolous with continuous live coverage of the corner of Curious Lane and Just Because Boulevard, the epicenter of the alien invasion. And this just in, King Kong is fighting the Mobile Suit Gundam. And of course, all of this is happening amidst World War IV, making it pure pandemonium. If only Captain Planet were still alive to save us all. Dude, could you imagine?
Fritz Frivolous, you have been chosen. Ask of any mystery, and the answer you shall receive.
Anything? I can ask about any mystery?
Any mystery, and you shall receive an answer.
Okay, I need to know, what is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life is...
Welcome back, everybody. This is Tom Case.
And this is Will Stark.
And in case you haven't noticed already by the sound of Will, we had to do this episode a little bit differently. So I'm in our secret studio here, while William is in an undisclosed location.
Indeed I am. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it to our secret locale.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay in my own secret locale this week.
I know we have a few people on our Discord who's trying to figure out our location, and, we got to keep them on their toes, you know what I mean? We can't, we can't take that risk.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, the first question I have here, I know this one's going to be hard because, for one, just to think of one answer, but you're going to have, I have a prediction that you're going to have more than one answer to this, and it's going to be very hard to pick one.
Okay.
And I have to give credit to my brother-in-law, Andrew, for this one. He actually was telling me this, or asking me this question. And that is, what if you were given the chance to be told the answer to one mystery?
Oh man, one mystery? All right, give me my parameters. What do you mean by mystery?
So the parameters are, it could be anything in the past, or maybe something that's going on currently that no one can figure out. It could be a crime mystery. It could be a murder. It doesn't even have to be any of those. It could be any mystery that to this present day you may have heard of and was intrigued about, and nobody knows. It has to be something that,
no one knows.
Yeah, no one knows the answer to, like something that's still considered an actual mystery.
Okay, and then I already know my answer, but who's answering this question?
Oh, well, you're going to answer this question.
Oh, but my point is, like, who?
Oh,
this answer from?
I see what you're saying there. You know what? For someone to have all the answers, it would have to be something, in my mind, something supernatural, right?
Okay, cool. That's going to back up my question then. I feel better asking this question. Because, the mystery that I'm going to want, like, quote-unquote solved, the answer I'm going to ask for is going to be, like, what is the nature of this reality? That's the question I'm going for. Like, what is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of the universe? Like, how did this happen and why? That's the mystery I want solved.
And you would hope that they don't answer with the number 42, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so mad. I would literally throw something in a supernatural entity's face.
I know.
How fucking dare you?
Wow, you know what? So that was kind of a twist for me because
you didn't expect that? I
didn't expect that answer from you, but that wasn't the part that threw me for the loop. Was my answer is actually very, well, I wouldn't say very similar, but it did have something to do with, like, this reality as opposed to, is there another one after we die?
Okay, so yours is more like looking to the future, mine was more looking to the past.
Yeah.
But they're still, they're in the same vein. What is the nature of this reality?
Yeah, kind of exactly, like kind of two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, I mean that's the question. Like across all of our history, we've been trying to answer that question through our various religions and philosophies and all this other stuff. So I mean,
yeah,
to me,
true.
It's almost an overly obvious question. But if we were to move away from that, though, unless you want to delve more into that topic, I'm trying to think of like actual like historical mysteries. Mm-hmm. And whenever I do that, like the number one that always pops in my head is the missing Roman legion, which it would be a good one. That'd be an interesting one to find out. I don't know if it's the one I would want to know, though.
Oh, that's where I thought you were going to go with. That's what I was thinking in my head when I was thinking about this question, because I remember you. I think you had brought that up in one of our episodes.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. It's something I bring up from time to time. So, I mean, it's up there. If someone just popped the question on me, that might be the one I turn to. What about you? Do you have any historical mysteries?
You know, there was this mystery about they made a movie on it, and obviously they took what's the term, like they took their take on it. Yeah, exactly. And it was about the people who were traveling in. God, now I know, and then now that I'm on the spot, I know I won't remember all the names. It was like somewhere, I want to say like in Siberia. And they disappeared.
I know what you're talking about. You told me about this horror movie. I forgot about this. Go ahead.
Yeah. And they found like weird, like they found photographs and I think even some footage, because the hikers that went up there, they were actually following, I think, the footsteps of, in the movie, they were following the footsteps of the original hikers, right? The original mystery of what happened to them. Well, anyways, the movie ends up being to where, spoiler alert, but like they were talking about how what really happened to them was they found this, government experiment that had to do with, I think it had to do with time travel. And they found out that, because of these experiments and because of time travel, I don't know, there was like these weird monsters that came about, and that's how they got killed, right?
Those are your artistic liberties right there.
Yeah, exactly. But, it's still, the fact that the original story that movie was made from is still a mystery, it does kind of make me wonder, like, is it something very simple like an animal attack? That was like one of the theories that they had, but some of the things that they found when they investigated the scene, didn't all add up to an animal attack. So I don't know. I love those type of mysteries, where it's literally like, man, there was no more witnesses. Everyone's dead. You know what I mean? I don't like the fact that everyone's dead.
Way anyone could ever know now.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it's like one of those I would have to pick. I would probably have to pick that if I couldn't pick my original answer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think that's a fair enough one. You know what? I'm racking my brain right now trying to like think of like historical mysteries, and I, as a person, am just so disinterested in mysteries as like a genre, or even like mysterious documentaries. Like I just skip those. Those hold no interest for me. That I'm failing to come up with one that isn't the missing Roman legion. The only other one I can think of is I don't know how familiar you are with the Greek philosophers. The big names. You have your Aristotle, your Plato, and your Socrates.
The rock stars of the philosophy world.
The rock stars of the Greek philosophical world. Sure, yeah. The Beatles, if you will, of Greek philosophy. But to this day, we actually don't know for certain if Socrates existed, because Socrates never wrote anything down. Everything we have from him was written by his student Plato, and was written from Plato's point of view. So we don't know if he was real, and I guess that's a mystery. I would like to know if Socrates is real.
I mean, right off the...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, you're right. Right off the bat, it would be like, okay, let's say if he wasn't real, why would Plato, you know what I mean? Like,
the thought is that Plato was writing his philosophy almost in the third person, in order to like give it even more credence. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
But that being said, I'm not super well read with all three of them because, Aristotle learned from Plato, Plato learned from Socrates. But what I have read from Plato and what I've read written of Socrates, they do have like a different approach to like how they see, their ideal culture and ideal morals and stuff like that. So to me, it seems to indicate that I think Socrates was a real, actual individual with his entirely own set of teachings and beliefs that Plato did really record. But I think Plato probably took some artistic liberties, if you will, because some of the things that he has Socrates say in his writings, it's a little flowery, it's a little dramatic, especially it's actually a really good read, the read of Socrates' death, and how, because Socrates was executed by Athens, by the government, because of his teachings.
Supposedly, right?
Supposedly, right. Yeah, exactly. Supposedly, because his teachings went against the teachings of their religion, of the gods and whatnot. He was more atheistic.
So the reason, though, why that was the whole mystery was because everything that we know of him was only through Plato?
Yeah, exactly. Plato was the one who wrote everything down. Yeah.
Yeah, that would seem a little weird because, if this person was as prolific as, Plato would make him out to be, you would think there would be other writings of him or other people who talked about Socrates. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know enough to know if there were other things that were written about him. From what I've read, Plato is like the main source. But the thing about Socrates is, from what we know, is that he was a very strange and extremely eccentric individual. He never left the city of Athens in his entire life. Like, he never walked outside their walls, practically.
Oh,
really? He was just, I think he didn't even own a pair of shoes. I think I'm remembering that correctly. He walked around barefooted. He was really unwashed and unkempt. Like, you would have thought he was a homeless person, except for he was like the smartest dude you ever met in your life.
Yeah.
And Socrates is one of those people, if obviously he did exist, he's one of those people that you would hate to know because he's so annoying. He acts like he knows it all. He's always decrying something, whether it's the government or religion or the way you're living your life. Like, he's overly critical, and he's just a negative Nancy and terrible to be around.
I mean, if that was true, you know what I mean? And like what you're saying, like if he never left, Athens or whatever, that's like somebody who's never traveled, and they're trying to give you travel tips, to you know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't that feel it that way? Like,
I mean, sure, you're not wrong. But that being said, Socrates was an absolute undeniable genius. Like, again, if we can take Plato at his words, this dude had dozens and dozens of students following him around all the time because his philosophy was just so on point. And the reason he's one of my favorite philosophers is because, like, I have found myself reading, some of his recorded words, and it really either moving me or making me think about the way I live my life on, like, a moral, how I go about my day and what I value. So, yeah. I mean, sure, he didn't have, like, world travel experience, but I'm not going to Socrates for world travel experience.
Yeah, that's true.
But real quick before we move on is that Plato supposedly recorded the last moments of Socrates' life, in which he was to be executed, and he was calm. He just had his friends come to him, and so that he might philosophize with them to his dying moment. The way he was executed was a poison brew made with hemlock, which was pretty common at the time. It's supposed to be painful, but and it kills you within like a couple hours of drinking it. And
man, that does not sound any fun if it's going to take a couple hours.
Yeah, and then the thing is, like, supposedly what is written is that his friends, Plato included, came to rescue him. Basically, they'd worked out a deal where they were going to smuggle Socrates out and take him to, I want to say, Thebes? One of the other Greek cities. It doesn't matter. But they were going to smuggle him out. Basically, government was going to brush it under the rug. They weren't going to execute him. It was going to be fine. And Socrates literally philosophizes and argues why that is a terrible idea and why he needs to die instead. And this is one of those moments I remember. I was in high school when I read this. And I remember at the beginning of reading this, being so thoroughly irritated with the logic of Socrates and not understanding like why he won't just go. I'm like, he can live to the rest of his days, he can continue philosophizing, making the world a better place, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And by the end of this story, if you follow the logic and you listen to everything he's saying, you're just like, shit, you're right, he has to die. And just like having my mind so thoroughly changed from beginning to end, it just blew me away.
Yeah.
And whether it was real or not, it's a brilliantly told story and lesson. And so in the end, I guess it doesn't matter if Socrates is real or not, because his teachings are
they're still there,
very powerful and very meaningful to this day. That being said, we don't know if he actually existed or not.
Yeah, I totally thought you were going to say he was going to philosophize with them on like why he doesn't want to travel, so don't try to save him and take him out.
Well, honestly, that was kind of part of it. Like, the dude was so attached to Athens as an identity for himself and to the city that like the idea of living in another city just sounded like living hell to him, which is him being closed-minded, but he was an eccentric person.
I love having the thought too that, when Plato was writing all this stuff about Socrates, making him seem real, if there was other philosophers around going, oh, so he didn't even want to leave at that point. How convenient. Like they don't believe him either,
Yeah, I can see that. That's hilarious.
And
you're crazy. You're just making everything up.
Yeah, I know. And then all else, the other thing I could only think about is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. If Socrates really was like that and kind of annoying, if I met someone like that, I would just probably, hey, what's up, Socrates? Just to get him mad because I keep mispronouncing his name.
That's hilarious.
When you mentioned about like, you would kind of steer more back for like a mystery back in history, right? Ooh, that sounds like a good. That's like a good album name, like
the Mystery Back in History.
Mystery Back in History. You know what I mean? We got to make a song out of that.
Episode name,
dude. That's a good one right there. Mystery Back in History. Okay. No, but I was also thinking, what might be a really good one that everyone always talks about is the building of the pyramids.
I did think about that because we don't have a full understanding of how they were built.
Yeah, like. I would be so, like enthralled to find out like, oh yeah, like this is how it's done. But I kind of feel like, to be honest, like if we were given this answer, it's going to be something where we're like, oh, duh. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's so simple.
I feel the same way. Like, we're going to find out and we're like, well, that was underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Because another one would, that in the same vein would be Stonehenge. We don't know who built them or how they were made.
And what it was for. I mean, I know that they say that it's probably for a calendar of some sort, right?
Right. But we don't know the details.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been something that they were building there, and then there was like, yeah, you know what? We don't like this location. Let's go somewhere else.
It would be hilarious. It's just an unfinished project.
I know. You never know. Or I guess there's something, if we didn't want to, always look back into history. I mean, even to this day, that everyone is still wondering about, has other life, from other planets visited us, right? Extraterrestrial beings or whatever.
Yeah.
That might be a good one to answer, unless, unless you get the, of course not. You know what I mean? Like, no.
I mean, for me, I just don't find that very interesting necessarily. Because for me, it's just like, well, it's irrelevant whether they have or haven't.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But that's just I know a lot of people are fascinated by that subject, so I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there would be a little bit more relevance. Like let's say if we did pick, okay, how were the pyramids built? That could at least answer a lot of questions to certain, like, how those ancient civilizations were living, how much, because like even the ancient Greeks, I mean, they had like, all, like the math and those sciences back then, and they were using them,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So like, it just goes to show like, well, why couldn't someone from that time period building the pyramids probably have, I don't know, some type of technology that we didn't think they would know about, but they did.
I mean, yeah, it's distinctly possible. the fluctuation of like technological advancement has kind of gone up and down throughout history, and obviously then as you get closer and closer to the modern age over the last 400 years, it's really skyrocketed to unbelievable heights. But yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say what they did or didn't know, because if you think about it, Socrates' time period was closer to our time period than he was to the time when the pyramids were made.
Yeah.
By the time Socrates came around, the pyramids were already like 3,000 or 4,000 years old.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
And I think that was 700 BC. So we're talking about 2,700 years ago. So.
Yeah. Now, I know this question was more so like, what if you had the chance, or like what if I had the chance? But
yes.
If I changed it a little bit, what would you think about, like, let's say if the world had the chance? And I don't know who would be the one
in charge.
Yeah, to be finally chosen to pick which question, but I don't know. I kind of feel like if it was left up to like the world, let's say, I don't know, let's just say it was the superpowers, right? Like the largest governments of the world.
Yes.
Now, if it was up to them, I kind of wonder what they would pick. You know what I mean? Because a part of me would think they might go with like religious aspects.
They might. It's also hard to say. Like the powers that be might never be able to come to an agreement about what's to be asked. So I would not be surprised if a question never gets answered, because a question never gets asked.
Yeah, and that would be a shame.
Yeah, that would be a shame. But it would be difficult for them to come to an agreement on what the question should be if the entire world. And then, of course, you would be dealing with riots everywhere. Could you imagine if this was like public knowledge and everyone like knew it for a fact? Like everyone would be screaming to have their question answered. There'd be riots in the streets. There'd be movements, religious movements, political movements. It'd be chaos.
Yeah, it would definitely, I think, turn very chaotic.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, to the point where I would expect political assassinations. Like I would expect disaster.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that there would be groups out there that are so, like, what's the word? They're just so zealous. Yeah, exactly. Zealous.
Yeah.
Fanatics. You know what I mean? Like, they just couldn't handle the fact that if you're not going to ask their question or they're not going to get their answer. Which also would lead into the other part too. Like, okay, let's say they finally did reach an agreement to what question they're going to ask. Depending on how this answer is going to be given, is it going to be given privately or is it going to be given to the public? Because if the nation's governments are going to hear this, they're probably not going to air it publicly first.
Right. There's going to be a delay in case it's disastrous.
Yeah, and then there's going to be tons of conspiracies, they didn't give us the right answer, or they're holding back certain information, or they changed this,
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be a never-ending mystery. I'm trying to think of what on earth would a government want to know? Like,
yeah, I'm struggling with that too right now, because the only reason I thought about the religious was because I do know that some of the, maybe not some of the superpowers, but like, some of the people in power are always, talking about, oh yeah, well, I'm of this religion or this faith. I would feel like certain groups, like the Vatican or some people in Israel, whatever, that have their influence in some politics. That's the only reason why I thought that's what they would want to know. But other than that, you're right. I wouldn't know what they.
Okay. I just thought, like, if I was the president, right, or I was the leader of, oh my gosh, why can't I think of the UN, right? If I was just super in charge of the UN, even though I know that's not how it works, and I got to be like, okay, you need to ask a question that is going to benefit the world or your people or whatever in the best way possible. I'm thinking the number one thing that I'm going to ask is, what is the truth about human effect on climate change? Because if this is the voice coming from on high and no one can deny it, well, then we can all finally get on board with one or the other on what the fuck is going on, and let's goddamn do something to save this planet.
Dang, you know what? That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's so good that's what you would hope they would do, right?
Right.
But man, do you have faith? Let's say this is all happening. Do you have faith that that's what they would pick?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would be on the board, though. I think it might make it to... I think it has like a 30% chance of being the question that does get answered, because I think governments are very interested in the absolute truth, even though like the truth is staring them in the fucking face already. But I think they would be able to help themselves. I think that would be a finalist in like the top 3 final possible answer or questions.
Yeah, I would hope. Dude, could you imagine?
Breaking news, a new study suggests leaving an iTunes review is very important for newly created podcasts. So to nurture your new favorite podcast, make sure to leave an iTunes review. This has been Fritz Frivolous, reminding you to like, comment, and subscribe. Will and Tom, back to you. A murderous gang kills his wife and family, turning Frank Castle into the Punisher. While investigating the death of a little girl, he suffers a psychotic breakdown, turning Walter Kovacs into Rorschach. And the death of his billionaire parents during a robbery turns Bruce Wayne into Batman. All 3 are now famous vigilantes in the comic book world, but what if there was a real vigilante in our world? What would it take to become a successful vigilante, cleaning up the crime-ridden streets of our neighborhoods? Let us follow our 2 caped crusaders, Will and Tom, as they take out the trash and find an answer.
And we're back.
Indeed.
All right, Willem, this one is a little bit difficult for me to explain.
Okay.
So, what I originally came up with was the question of, like, what if you were a vigilante like Batman, right?
Okay.
But what I actually really wanted to come out from this question is, like, what do you think, let's see, how would I ask this? Like, what do you think needs to happen, or how would this person have to be and need in order to become a successful vigilante?
Your question is like, what does it take? What combination of circumstances and necessities need to come together in order for Batman to be an actual possibility?
Yeah, and not necessarily Batman, you know what I mean? But
successful vigilante.
A successful vigilante, a Batman-esque, right? Because like this originally started when I was thinking of the question of, like, you know, what if there was a real life vigilante, right? That was the actual, like, OG question that I was thinking in my head. But I realized that there actually are some. Actually, while you think about the question, let me go over some Fritz facts here.
Yeah.
Benjamin John Francis Fodor, a.k.a. Phoenix Jones, is an American real-life vigilante. Initially wearing a ski mask to intervene in a public assault, Fodor later developed a full costume and adopted Phoenix Jones as a pseudonym. From 2011 until its dissolution in 2014, Jones was the leader of the Rain City superhero movement, which was in Seattle, Washington, and it was a citizen patrol group that described itself as a crime prevention brigade. Now, here's the part of Phoenix Jones where I feel like, okay, this comes down to a somewhat successful vigilante.
Okay.
Is that he is a mixed martial artist that confronts lawbreakers while wearing a costume. So that's like, I'm not saying that he is the most successful vigilante or whatever, but there are some very small, like, documentaries on him, or at least one that I remember seeing. It was off YouTube, and it was him basically stopping someone. I think they were harassing, like, I think it was a guy harassing a girl, and he broke it up, and the guy wanted to fight him. Well, obviously Phoenix Jones, he's a mixed martial artist, so there was no contest. The guy who was trying to do whatever with this girl, you know, got his ass handed to him pretty quickly.
Okay.
Another Fritz fact was there is a documentary. It's actually a pretty good one. It's called Superheroes, and they showcase many so-called vigilantes throughout the United States. Most help out by handing out flyers like regarding crimes or criminals or or they hand out like supplies, food, and water to the homeless. Now, those are all good.
Vigilante, though.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say all those are good things to do. You know what I mean? Like that.
Those are great people.
More power to them. But I don't consider that a vigilante. However, they do show some of them that take it further than that. And two notable ones are, one, he calls himself the Dark Guardian. And he's, I know, right? You know, the problem is sometimes their names, I'm like, man, that kind of like, it kind of sucks. I realize.
Here's the thing, Tom.
Yeah.
You don't ever get to call yourself the Dark Guardian. Everyone else has to call you that.
Yeah.
And then you have to never call yourself that. That's the only way that ever works.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. It has to. I really do feel like, because Phoenix Jones was actually something that the city he patrols in started calling him.
For sure.
But okay, so he calls himself the Dark Guardian, right? And this is see, I feel like a lot of vigilantism, if you're practical with it, I think this is, that's a good thing to be. Is if you have to be practical with what you're doing. And what he does is he has a sidekick named Cameraman. And obviously, I think you know what Cameraman does, right?
Yes.
So, but I think that's important because he documents exactly what's happening, right? He films everything for Dark Guardian. And what Dark Guardian does, though, is he patrols his city and he goes to the like city parks that are reported to have the most drug dealing happening. And he'll go in there with a bullhorn, or actually Cameraman goes in there first, right? Kind of undercover. And he kind of records video and audio of drug deals happening. And when the drug dealer stays in the park, he tells Dark Guardian, who then comes in with a bullhorn and a light and everything. And he literally confronts the drug dealers, like out in the open, making sure like all the public can hear and see him. And he basically tells them that they need to leave and they, don't come back. And he calls the police at the same time. So I don't know that one. I don't know if if he has to call.
You don't know if that counts as a vigilante or not.
Yeah, because if you're calling the police, I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't think that counts as vigilantism. It's definitely like an active citizen. You know what I mean? They're actively keeping a lookout and notifying the authorities immediately, and doing what they can to help prevent.
Yeah.
That's that, and they're kind of crazy about it, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Number one, being a vigilante is illegal, and the reason it's illegal is because you are literally apprehending criminals and administering justice.
Yeah, exactly. You're
without,
right.
Due process and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
so,
that's
the Dark Guardian doesn't count.
Yeah. And then I know but at least I like that he was a little more practical with it, of like, at least, you do know he is committing a crime, through using his sidekick Cameraman. Another one that they show in there, and this one probably would be considered more of a vigilante. Unfortunately, they didn't catch footage while they did the documentary of this happening, but they call themselves the New York Initiative, and it consists of 3 men and 1 woman. And what they do is they patrol their city, but they set up like, I guess, sting operations is what you could call them, where like sometimes they'll have the woman in their group, walk down a street that's been noted for like muggings and stuff like that. And they're all in communication with each other using like walkie-talkies and earpieces and all that kind of stuff. And they kind of follow her, but like at a distance. And they try to see if anyone's going to mug her. And if they do, obviously they're going to take care of that. At least this is what they say they did. They do.
Right.
The one thing, though, that I did like about it is one of the guys that's in that group, because the other ones wear costume where they have masks. They don't want to show their face. Well, this guy who he shows his face, he says the reason why is because he's gay and he doesn't want to, like, he feels like covering his face now is almost like being back in the closet, right? He doesn't want to do that. Okay. But his costume, I thought it made the most sense. It had protection where he needed protection. And then like he had this, I don't know how many thousand lumen light that was like blinding, like right on his chest. so that if somebody did try to come up or whatever to him, you know, he literally just pushes a button on his chest and it turns on. You know,
that's pretty interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was like super practical, like very practical, you know. And then then literally just for this, he took EMT classes. He was getting all his license, so that way if somebody did get hurt or whatever, and a homeless person got got hit by a car, I should say, and he was able to administer first aid to that person.
Okay, but how and why did this homeless person get hit? Did this homeless person get hit because he was doing something? Or did he get hit and then he just happened to see this homeless person get hit?
Yeah, no. Yeah, they were out on patrol. They were trying to do one of those things where I think the woman was like, no. It was one of the ones where he said he dressed up very flamboyantly because there was like a section that was like, they heard there was anti-gay, you know, like, people, you know, committing that type of hate crime, right? So he dressed up very flamboyantly and tried to like see if someone was going to try to do something to him because of that. And nothing happened, but then as they were going to call it quits, all of a sudden they heard this car kind of screech and they heard someone get hit and it was a homeless man, but the car took off like way fast before they could even get there.
Right. So it was just they just happened to be at the right place at the right time.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was unrelated.
Unrelated. Yeah.
Okay. And can we go back to the Phoenix Jones character? I just want to know. He stopped doing whatever. What was he doing? This person was literally physically fighting people. How were they not arrested?
What do you mean? How was he not arrested?
Yeah.
You know what? I kind of thought that myself, but there was actually a YouTube video where there was some guy out, like he was like some drunk guy. You know how like they get inebriated, they start getting belligerent, and they wanted to fight him, right? And this was outside of a bar, and there was a cop there, and the cop actually allowed it. Like he did not arrest them for fighting.
Cops are gonna use discretion. They have some leeway and stuff like that. So just like whatever. Like it's not like somebody's getting, you know, I don't know, mauled and mugged. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Granted, the cop probably shouldn't have let that happen.
Exactly. Yeah. But he did. Yeah.
Will use discretion. So like. My question isn't why did this Phoenix Jones character not get arrested for the one time he did it. My question is this dude was doing it for 3 years and he never got in trouble. Like we know who this guy is and he didn't get in trouble. Like,
yeah, I know.
How did that occur?
Yeah, I couldn't find that information. It didn't. You know what I mean? Like it didn't. I couldn't find where it said like, oh, but then he was arrested because you know what I mean? Because you are right. If you are a vigilante, like. That's illegal. You know, you can't take the law into your own hands.
Yeah, and the main reason is because of, again, the violence aspect of it all.
Yeah. Which also, actually, real quick, or were you, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the last thing I have here is, and it kind of brings up the same thing you just talked about. Have you ever heard of the Guardian Angels?
No.
So they were this group based out of New York City, and they're known for patrolling in big groups, and they usually wear red vests with red berets, and like they would patrol all around, you know, like subways, you know, like areas that attract crime because they're dark and you know what I mean, like they're out of the way, like not a lot of the public sees, you know, this area.
Yeah.
And they always promote on there that they're crime deterrent. Like they practice and they preach and they teach people how to be safe from crime and all this stuff. But I remember I was in LA. It was like LA Hollywood area, and I was walking around, and they actually had some guardian angels there. I was kind of surprised because I always thought they were just in New York City, and I don't know if they were like, you know, I don't know, some other chapter or whatever. But I remember seeing them, and they were walking around they looked like a gang. You know what I mean? Like a gang that's wearing all red berets and red vests. But like they walk around, and I was hearing one of the I overheard their conversation, and the one guy was talking about how he was beating the shit out of this person that was like, again, I think it was some guy who was trying to assault a woman or whatever. But it made me think in my head, like, okay, well, if you're a crime deterrent, and yeah, you know, if you see a crime, maybe you're going to try to stop it, but you know, beating up someone You know what I mean? Like, I'm wondering,
context is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to think these guys roll around. They're being deterrent. They're going to places where crime tends to happen, right? So they're probably going to see it. Now, if you see a crime, if you see someone get assaulted, like, for the most part, you are allowed to go in there and save someone's life. Like,
yeah, that's true.
And if someone's attacking you, you're allowed to defend yourself. And that does go as far as go. I mean, if someone's trying to kill you and you need to put them in, basically beat them into submission so that they can't keep coming after you, like, yeah, that's going to be you beating the shit out of someone legally.
Yeah, that would be probably falls in also like self-defense.
So I could see that happening, but that's where I guess the line between self-defense or defending of others and vigilantism kind of like begins to bleed together a little bit, and it only takes a few more actions to cross over from there, I suppose. So, like, I would be surprised if, like, out of the hundreds of these guardian angels, if there's not a few dozen violent interactions a year. If these guys are still active, I don't know anything about these guys. So,
yeah, that's true. I'm actually not sure if they are still active. They might be.
I would just imagine that that's inevitable. As for how could a Batman-esque figure, a kick-ass, if you will,
yeah, exactly,
exist in this world, long-term, like...
I don't see this person being able... Well... I don't, if they are going to be like, you know, street level, they're brawling, you know what I mean? Taking the trash out, as if you will. I don't see this happening long term. Definitely not more than 5 years.
I mean, I'd be shocked if it lasted that long.
Yeah.
You're talking like on Batman's level, right? So we're doing like full detective, like,
well, okay.
Walking on the roofs of buildings and like sneaking out and busting up gangs and you know what I mean? Like, how far are we going here?
Well, you know, okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So these are the points that I would want to discuss of how what one needs in minimum to be like successful Batman-esque style vigilante, right? Like, for one, let's just say this: do you think they need to be a billionaire like Bruce Wayne?
Okay, so for me, the billionaire thing, or the excessively rich thing, only plays a part if we're trying to successfully make a vigilante who can stay out of trouble and stay undercover long term. You need money to pay off all the people that you need to pay off. Oh,
I never thought about it like that.
That's where the money would come into play. I would think is like you need to be in, and then if that's the case, then you're talking about a corrupt government. And the place that you're dealing with has other problems at that point. But let's just say that it's corrupt enough where this, you know, that maybe the vigilante themselves isn't independently wealthy, but someone is in their corner that's independently wealthy, has the right connections to keep their identity secret and them out of trouble. So when the cops bust them, like there's ways to weasel out of it. That's where the money would come in. That's because when you said Batman, so I'm trying to think of like what's the closest to Batman you could get. What are all the factors that would have to come together? So yeah, I think you would need not only someone wealthy, but someone wealthy and incredibly well connected politically.
Oh, okay.
Backing them, not them. I don't think the vigilante could be that person because that person has to keep their name clean.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, yeah, but do you think... I don't know if it would have to be billionaire status.
I mean, you know, I think it would have to be very wealthy.
Very wealthy.
You gotta pay a lot of important people to you know, keep everything under wraps and you know, give your vigilante complete immunity, you know what I mean? And keep people quiet, and like that takes a lot of money.
I didn't think about that. When I was thinking about this question, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I don't think okay, not saying that they would have to have some income coming in. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm not saying that they could just have a regular 9-to-5 job. No, they would need someone who, you know, relatively good career type of, you know, income, you know, to be successful. But now that you mention it in that context, I never thought about it like that. I never thought about the money being used, because I was thinking the money being used primarily just for like self-equipment, medical costs, and like maybe, gadgetry, stuff like that.
Yeah, so let's keep going here. The other thing is, I don't think they could be someone with a career, because guess what people with a career have to do?
They have to go to work. Yeah,
they have to have a career.
Yeah.
So they're just not going to have time. So it has to be somebody who is being paid to do this. They're being paid,
that's true.
And they're being trained, and so it's going to be someone who is probably trained in the best, hand-to-hand combat, practical hand-to-hand combat that you can, weapons training, et cetera, et cetera. None of this "I'm Batman, I don't shoot people" thing. You would have to have at least one, if not a few, like really expert physical trainers and doctors on staff for this person. Think about athletes and how they have the best medical, everything we can give them, and motherfuckers are always getting injured or having surgeries and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. It would be very prudent for this person to have like friends in the medical field or something like that. Like so you said.
We're back to our billionaire patron here, who can hire the best of the best and have this on staff and ready to go.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's that as well. And then, even with the best of the best, this person is going to have to be in their physical prime. So we're talking from age 20 to 36. And after that, they got to retire. You got to bring in someone else. Just like a sports athlete. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Well, let me ask you this. Even if they were in their prime, and I know you're saying anywhere between those ages, what if they started out at, let's say, age 20? Do you think they would even make it to 36?
Probably not.
I mean, just physically. I'm not saying like if,
Honestly, probably not.
Still probably not.
They have that great of a chance of making it that far, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what kind of danger this person will actually be in. You know what I mean? And then we got to think about like intel and stuff like that. Like, is this person going to be in charge of their own intel? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
If nobody is that good at all the things. You're going to need a team of intel people. And next thing you know, you've hired like 30 people to surround this one person to go out and do vigilante stuff, when you probably, as a billionaire, should have just like channeled all your money into charity and youth outreach and getting politicians to pass good legislation and city reconstruction. You could spend the same amount of money and did way more good.
Yeah, that's true. You are correct with those aspects. So, but let's keep it to where he would have to be on his own, not having a benefactor. So
we're moving away from the billionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, moving away from the billionaire benefactor. But like if this person maybe owned his own business to the point of where his business kind of self-operates and he makes pretty good money, that might work. You know what I mean? Because then he would only have to every once in a while oversee certain things to make sure that his business is thriving and not, going into disrepair.
My question then becomes like, what is the motivation here? You know what I mean? Like, are you just trying to stop muggings in the street? I mean, I guess that's admirable and stuff, but again, if you do have that much free time and you do want to make the world a better place and like fight crime, you should probably be spending all this time you have, because your business runs great on its own, like getting involved in ways to like actually change your community and make it a better place.
Yeah, you know what? I wanted to bring that up too. I'm so glad you said that, because of the fact that you said like, what's this person's motive? You know what I mean? Like what he wants to do. Yeah. I think that's the major difference, is that you're right. It's admirable. You're going out there and you're just kind of, oh, is this crime going to happen in front of me? Am I just going to stop a mugging or a rape, whatever, which is good to do. If that's happening, yes, stop it. But, for certain crimes that keep repeating, like drug dealing, sex trafficking, things like that, you may start off finding these low level people, but sooner or later you're going to have to follow them up the chain if you're really going to do something, because if you don't, it's never going to stop. You're just going to get one drug dealer, one sex trafficker, one whatever, after the other. They're just going to get replaced.
Yeah.
And as far as like, also too, I was thinking the mental state of this vigilante, he's got to probably be a little crazy.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? And not crazy. What I mean by that is like.
Also, he probably doesn't have a family, because when you have a family, you can't risk your life like that.
Yeah. There's no. I don't see them having a family. They and what I mean by crazy too is I mean crazy as in like people who have that like laser focus, like that is all they do, that is all they want to do, that is all they're going to do. You know what I mean? Like, not to use the word crazy. Not saying that they are crazy, but I just mean like that's their. I think that's got to be something that's in their in their brain.
Yeah.
So the other aspect would be transportation. They got to be able to cover a lot of ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If we're talking about a major metropolitan area, I mean, traffic's gonna suck.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's no other way to really travel distance quickly besides a car, unless you have a helicopter, which is not quiet.
Yeah, that's the problem. See, to me, I would think the only real way is maybe if you had some type of like a motorcycle type of vehicle or something that can fly.
Yeah,
And
if this vigilante's rolling around on a motorcycle, they're going to be dead within the year.
Yeah, that's going to be very...
Motorcycles are death traps.
Exactly.
I rode one for 4 years, and it was by far, the fact that I survived those 4 years of riding nothing but a motorcycle is a goddamn miracle.
Yeah, and there's no way that, it looks good for movies and comic books and cartoons, but you're not swinging from a grappling hook anywhere. You're not leaping from... Yeah, you're not leaping from building to building. I mean, that won't happen in real life. That wouldn't be able to. Especially, you need to cover like that much ground. Like, there's no way you could really do that.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, like the amount of resources, time, and money that it would take to make even like the more realistic facade of real life Batman it wouldn't be worth investing. You'd be better off using all that time, resource, money, and energy on a million other things to affect way better change than having one guy roll around the city trying to stop whatever crime he can fit into like an 8-hour period. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not feasible, and like that's why most superheroes in our stories are super powered. It's so that they can do things that the average human can't do, and that includes Batman. Because let's be real, like Batman has superpowers. Number one, the billionaire thing, but number two, like he's pretty much the smartest person alive. He is in the peak condition a human being could possibly be in, and has access to like all the science and medical stuff to keep him in that condition for all of his life. He has nothing else to do but hone his intellect and body and focus it like a laser on the criminal activity of his one city. Like, Batman is not a human being; he is a superhuman.
I like how you compared having $1 billion to having a superpower.
Well, yeah, it's like all the money in the world, so like resources are never an issue, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have all the resources in the world, on top of like the best brain that could ever be genetically engineered and the best body that could ever be genetically engineered.
Yeah, exactly.
You're Captain America on crack.
Yeah.
So anyways.
I do, however, there is one thing that I think is very similar to Batman where, I do think that, and this can be done in certain ways, but, like if I were to become like a vigilante, right? Let's say I was, I had the mental and testicular fortitude to go out there and do this. I would actually want to be one that would be, distant, you know what I mean? And using certain gadgets that we have nowadays, like drones, maybe to at least, instead of having to do all the groundwork at first, you know what I mean? Like maybe you can start following these people, surveillance, gathering more intel, than beating up someone on the street at first.
Right.
I think gadgets, are going to be something that you'll need. You'll need something that will protect you, whether it be a taser, gun, knife. I don't know.
Yeah, but where are you going to get these gadgets, Tom? Are you
that is.
Are you going to buy them? Like how?
Yeah.
So there it is.
You shot down my idea, Will.
I'm sorry, Tom.
No, but So I guess, like, kind of, to recap, if there is going to be someone that finally comes out one day and we're like, wow, for one, you're right, they're going to need money. And whether that means they have a benefactor or they have some, I don't know, way of making their own income that they don't have to spend time on getting that income. Two, they're going to need, well, obviously martial arts or hand-to-hand combat, however you want it, weapons training, that's an obvious. You're going to have that.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing that we didn't talk about, which I kind of feel is a good idea, is just like the Batman, why he chose to be Batman, right? It was a symbol. He needs to strike fear into people who seemingly don't have fear because they're just, the scum of your city, you know what I mean, committing crimes. I kind of feel like that would be something interesting that someone did, if they were to become a real vigilante.
I'll say this, you have to also remember that, Batman is a hero, but he's also his own worst enemy. Batman can never succeed because of Batman. Batman chose to become a symbol, and the criminals did come to fear him, and then all the costume crazies came out, inspired by the man himself. Batman cannot win. He creates his own enemies because he creates every step of the way.
Yep.
The more he succeeds, the more he fails. So, there's a lesson to be learned there. I love Batman. I think he's inspirational in some ways. But I think, some of the more important lessons are the fact that Batman's a fucking crazy person who causes his own goddamn problem.
Exactly, right?
Don't be Batman.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If there ever was to be a vigilante, that person mentally has to be cracked in some way. You know what I mean? There's something that's just not, just not.
I think it's also important to just know, most problems can't be solved with fucking punching someone in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll solve the immediate problem in front of you, but it's not going to solve anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, they would have to also not just be, expert in probably hand-to-hand, combat and all that stuff, but they're going to need to be smart. They're going to need to be able to find out how to stop the whole problem, not just the one that's in front of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But dude, I'm Batman.
And that is all we have for you tonight. We will continue to bring you up-to-date coverage as new imaginings develop. Please don't forget to leave an iTunes review, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Remember, you can follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at DCYimagine. And if you would like to contact us or tell us what you are imagining, you can email us at dudecouldyouimagine@gmail.com. This has been Fritz Frivolous, and from all of us here at Dude Could You Imagine, keep on imagining.
I feel like you're now that you're on the phone, I feel like you're some special guest or celebrity that I'm interviewing.
I'm some expert scientist.
Yeah, seriously, and joining us via via phone is
joining us from the Antarctic Circle.
Yeah.